Oh, wow. I think I'm finally live. Thank you guys for waiting so much if you're still in the room. I appreciate you. I was having some issues with my audio. If you can hear me all right, just let me know down below. Uh, thank you, Bronx Witch. I see you. Alrighty, guys. Welcome, welcome. You know how it is. Friday the 13th things. All right. Different area, so let me make sure you can see me and hear me okay before I begin. But welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Moonlit Metaphysics. This is episode 9. We're going to be talking about the clairs tonight. But we're going to dive into Happy Friday the 13th, everybody. I don't know what everyone's scared of. It's an awesome day. Thank you. Trying to like divine feminine goddess energy, trying to honor the significance of today. So actually, let's get right into that because I do have a few things to say about the clairs, and I have a few other things to talk about tonight. And I'm already late, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. So, starting with a reflection on this day, a lot of people consider this day to be unlucky, rooted in associations with scary, evil things, bad luck. Things like that. I mean, there's a whole entire horror movie series dedicated to the idea that Friday the 13th is a scary time. So there's like, a lot of pop culture stuff that makes people believe that it's not a good thing. But looks can be deceiving. There's a lot of mythos that ties Friday the 13th, the day and the number, and the fact that they're combined at the same time to transformation, transmutation, spiritual awakening, intuition, specifically with Friday being like a Venus day, Venus, the planet revered for divine feminine energy, right? So we off the bat get that association, bonus points for that Venus day. Um, but it's also associated with other goddesses, Freya, Friday, and all those divine feminine type archetypes are all connected. They all represent and correspond to intuition, magic, and insight. Okay, so we haven't even touched on the numerology of 13. That's just like Fridays. Like Fridays are our days. Okay, thank you, Takara. Um, so I don't know. There was at some point where this became demonized, patriarchal structures, trying to keep the divine feminine down or quiet or make them forget about their power. Not just females, but everybody, right? Because it's yin and yang, the divine feminine and divine masculine for everybody. So they were just kind of trying to hide that aspect. They were trying to keep us on the low, if you will, the magic and the power within. All right. Um, you can probably pick a time period, Christian Crusades, when they like just really went ham at that time, on that concept of demonizing women. But it's been happening probably all throughout our history. So eventually it was sucked of its power the day. Friday, like we said, named after the Norse goddess Freya, which is linked to obviously the planet Venus, divine feminine. That's what Friday represents. That's what Friday is. That's why we call Friday Friday. So right off the back, we're starting on a day of feminine, divine feminine energy at its finest. Something that people were like afraid of and try to hide. And now it's like Friday and you get free fries at McDonald's or something. No, that's not it. Um, moving on to the numerology and how 13 is really powerfully connected as well to the divine feminine. Uh, let's start off with Chaldean numerology. Wait, I have that note somewhere over here. All right, Chaldean numerology, traditionally, Chaldean numerology is like ancient, numerology from the Middle East. Uh, they revered the number 13 not as a necessarily scary number, but absolutely as a number of change and transformation, big moves, kind of like the way that the ocean is, which is very divine feminine. The divine feminine is the thing that move and changes, ebbs and flows, right? So could be bad, could be good, but that's what it is: chaos and destruction, a little bit of energy. Not like the Tower card, but definitely an energy of transmutation. Okay, so that's what the ancient Middle Eastern Chaldean numerology believes number 13 is. But number 13 is also revered in other ancient cultures, other sacred, particularly goddess worshiping cultures, because of actually the same ideology, the symbol of regeneration and wisdom. Um, it's seen as the number of the great goddess in some cultures, representing everything that goes along with divine feminine, creativity, intuition, the hidden mysteries of the universe. Okay, so all of these traits are tied to that number 13. Not to mention the lunar connection. So the 13, the 13 cycles in the year of the moon also are 13 average 13 menstrual cycles for females that have their period 13. If you didn't actually, people don't really think about it. And then the lunar cycles, and then this number is divine feminine from ancient cultures, and then you're like, oh yeah, okay, they put two and two together. That's what they did there. And so 13 was never necessarily a number of evil or something to fear. It was just like, hey, the changes are coming. That's it. And we so happen to be connected. We women, divine feminine energies, just so happens to be connected to a lot of change and mystery, right? So that's the background there. I couldn't tell you exactly where it went to shit, but it, as many things do, that's what happened. Um, what's cool about it, and the reason why I wanted to talk about Friday the 13th and its little mythos behind it is actually next to the clairs. The clairs are our subtle ability to connect with our deeper intuitive extra sensory self, and that is absolutely aligned with feminine receptive energy. Okay, so a nice little segue into the clairs. Let's talk about that. Okay, zoom. All right. The clairs are an expression of this divine feminine energy. They are this divine feminine in action. When we tap into our intuition, our intuitive nature, our gut instincts, are the pulls that we get, that's tapping into divine feminine. Okay, that's tapping into Friday the 13th energy. Right, Takara. It's some. I forgot. I reread it and I'm like, oh, word. I forgot. No wonder why I had two periods in August. Sweet TMI. My bad. But okay. So by understanding the way that you perceive extrasensory energy, the way that you perceive spirit energy, right? Basically, um, that's a way to tap into ancient cycles, to intuitive ancient divine feminine wisdom, right? The better we understand the way we perceive it, the easier it is for understand to break down the messages that we're getting, because there's messages all the time. It's just like, are we tuned into the right station? Did we like, are we on the Spanish station and we don't understand Spanish? Like, we got to tune into the right station. So the clairs helps us narrow down, in a way, the way that we perceive intuitive information. Okay, when we work with our intuition, we're tapping into divine feminine. Some people would like to call these psychic abilities. I'm not gonna tell you not to. I'm gonna allow that. Okay, I feel like there's a hierarchy of psychic abilities, and we'll talk about that at the end. But these are definitely um, ways, right? Ways that we're perceiving energy. Um, the ways that we're intuitively receiving this heightened perception through our different senses. That's what's particular about the clairs. It's the extra sensory energy, spirit energy, whatever energy from the universe, the cosmos, God, whatever, your spirit guides, how you're receiving that through your senses, like your five senses, right? So people don't really think about that either. Sometimes we're just like, oh yeah, clairvoyant, like she sees ghosts. But clairvoyant means clear seeing. And so it's associated with this with the sense of sight. Same thing with all the others, clair. So let's talk about clairvoyance real quick, break them down, and then talk about the lesser known clairs. Because actually, I came across the lesser known clairs through my own personal experiences where I was like, oh, what the hell was that? And that's weird. And then I was like, wait, no, that's got to be some type of spirit. And then I found that there was a term for that. I'm like, oh, snap. It's a clair. It's a lesser known clair that I just didn't come across until I actually experienced it. So we're going to talk about the basics, clairvoyance for being the first one, clear seeing, which is basically getting clear visions or clear mental images, um, or also seeing actually spirit, like seeing spirit. Okay, so our clairvoyant people, they kind of know they're clairvoyant. They can't kind of get away from it. They're like, yeah, I've been seeing dead people since I was like 4. So there's that. There's also levels of clairvoyancy, and there's levels for all the clairs, right? Everything's a level, everything's on a scale. You know how energy works. You can go back to episode 1 if you want to rehash on that. But essentially, some people may vividly see their grandma standing behind someone, or they may get real vivid pictures or images, or their communication is through dream state because that is mental images. That's visual. Okay. That's clairvoyance, receiving psychic, spiritual, cosmic information through visions, through your eyes. Any clairvoyance in the house? I'm not one. No, I'm not claiming it. Not yet. I'm not claiming it. I'm not claiming it. Okay, clairsentience. Clairsentience. Clairsentience is one that we hear a lot. It's kind of ambiguous. Like, what is that? Clear feeling is what it means. But sometimes people mix it up with a different clair that we'll talk about in a second. One of the lesser known clairs. But clairsentience, clear feeling, is actually tapping into people's emotional sensations. Also, that could be their physical sensations. This is like a physical medium. Sometimes these are, I thought I had these extra like terms written down, but I'm just going to go off the dome. Anyways, so this is what we would consider like a physical medium who can experience, is the medium for people's physical emotions, or emotional states mental emotional states, right? So they can feel it. Like you walk into a room, you're fine, you're chilling, and you walk into a room, and all of a sudden you're like, not feeling that. You have picked up somebody else's energy through your clairsentience, your clear feeling state. All right, and that's loosely connected to your sense of touch. I'll expand on that in a second. Your clairaudience. Okay, so my clairaudient people, my clear hearing people, these are people who hear messages from beyond. It's not like the inner voice, or it's like literally you and your inner voice are battling, like, I know, but no, but yes, but I'm not sure. You're doing the thing. Am I the only one that does that thing? I don't think so. I think a lot of us do that thing. And like, did you hear that? and it's subjective, meaning that only you can hear it, others can't. It's not an objective, weird paranormal kind of situation that we came across. I have a little bit of clear hearing. It'd be bugging me out. I'm like, what? Who? Who's there? Okay, this is my fave because this is one of my strong ones. Yeah, Nisi. Okay, so we have some experience with clairaudience in the house. It is kind of freaky, but imagine the clairvoyant people though. That's why I say I'm good. I'm not claiming that. I'm a hold off on that one. I'm working. I'm spiritually developing. I'm not there yet. Hold up. You could talk to me. I'll allow it. I'll allow it. Um, all right. Clear claircognizance. Claircognizance is clear knowing. Okay. So this is knowing information without an explanation. This is the reason you used to get like slapped a little bit upside your head when you was a little kid because words would come out your mouth and you'd be like, oh, you think you know it all. And you're like, I don't know. I just said a thing and it because it came into my head and now I'm getting bopped for it. That's my experience. But this clear knowing does come up like that. It comes up out of nowhere. It comes up kind of like a know-it-all energy sometimes. It's just a strong information that you cannot push aside. It is very, it's almost irrational to you. It's almost like I don't know how I know, but I know, and that's it. And I know. And that's claircognizance. Um, Bronx Witch, you have claircognizance, and it's so boring. Yeah, I know. I just did it. So, like, I am very guilty of being claircognizant as well. That's one of the first things um, I figured out about myself. I was like, oh yeah, that's the thing. Because there are reasons. I mean, there are no reasons. There are no reasons to know what I know sometimes. And I have recollection. I'm like, oh no, I learned that in school, or because I'm pretty smart. I like to maintain my high education standards. Always a student, and but no, it's not from there. Sometimes it's not from there. Sometimes it's from like 1892, and I'm like, I don't know why I know that, but I know it. Nisi, this is your strong one as well. Yes, this is small. How you know that? You ain't supposed to be knowing that. I don't know, and I'm sorry. I think. Okay, our lesser known clairs. These are a more obscure clairs. Um, Not always talked about, but all often experienced. And sometimes we just don't have that word, that label to put on it. And I'm not pro label, but I am kind of like into labels in a way because I like to organize stuff. It's the Virgo in me. So these, they also connect to the five senses, right? But in more direct ways. So, for example, we have clairgustance, which is clear taste tasting. So if anybody is like me and watches ghost shows and medium shows, then you might have heard a medium or two say something like, "Oh, I taste something in my mouth. I taste wine. I taste blood," or whatever it is. Or maybe you yourself have been at your altar and taste something. Like, what the was that? That's clairgustance. That's spirit communication connecting with you through your sense of taste, your taste buds. Okay. Yes, stay back to the clear cognizance. That oh God, I heard that all the time. Like you're too young. Stay at a grown children don't speak. What are you doing? Giving out information. Like what who are you? Um yeah, thank you, Nisi. Takara, yeah, Takara. Yeah, the clear cognizance is strong in this group. We just know what we know. Don't ask us why. And we're also a little traumatized for knowing it. Okay, so our next one, clear tasting. I don't think I've had any clear tasting experiences. Our next one is clairalience. Clairalience. Clear smelling. Clear smelling. So smelling scents or fragrances connected to spirit, connected to memories. If something easily triggers your memory through sense of smell, like sometimes you smell something and you're brought right back to that time when your grandma made you that tea. That's another one of my case examples. Then you're more likely to experience clairalience perception of extrasensory energy. So actually, that happened to me the other day. I was just sitting here, I was doing a reading or getting a reading actually, and I got a strong smell of coffee. Um, and I didn't have coffee at my altar because it was an off day and I had not it was empty. So put the coffee on the altar, Alexis. You know it all. No, okay, so that is clear smelling. Sometimes I've also smelled things like randomly, like roses or something, like just random smells that don't make sense. And it's sometimes during readings, and I used to shut up about it because it was like weird. But now I'm comfortable enough with the idea, with the knowledge that this is spirit information that I'm perceiving, that I'll share that with the client, and it often hits. It often hits. It hits. So our next one, yeah, that one's it's an interesting one. I'm like, what is that smell? Our next one is clairtendency. So this is connected to the sense of touch, your physical sense of touch. So therefore also connected to clairsentience. But clairsentience is a little bit more woo-woo. It's like, oh, I feel the energies. Okay. Clairtendency is actually gaining information touching an object or person. This is also known as psychometry. Okay, so clairtendency or psychometry. Tendency, touching, clear touching, or the ability to touch things and get psychic information from them. Okay, that's what that is. That's other psychic medium stuff. Psychic physical mediums. Okay, so physical mediums specifically because they're a medium of this extrasensory energy, the spirit energy. They're a conduit for it, but physically speaking, they have to touch something or be near someone or touch someone's hand or something like that. Okay, or they'll feel the energy that a spirit went through when they were in their living state or something like that. Okay, that's clairtendency, clairsentience. Get the difference? There's a difference there. That's why they're afraid of us. That's why that's why it's evil and unlucky. It's because they're all I gotta do is touch you, Papa, and I know where you've been. Don't worry about it. I got you. It's because we got all these extrasensory perceptions. Okay, how can we identify our clair ability? It's kind of blatant. I mentioned it a little bit. If you have a stronger physical sense, like a stronger sense than others, some people may say, "Oh, damn, you heard us from down the hall. Like you have really good hearing," or you can read crazy. The sight of an eagle or a hawk or whatever. Um, this is an indicator of which one of your five physical senses might be stronger than others and therefore more prone to receive energy. It's a primary sense of yours, right? Sometimes when someone loses a sense, you know, in whatever fashion, they may not be born with it or they lose it from an injury. Their other senses are heightened. They say sometimes. They would agree, you know, there are some studies that some people agree that, oh, like, yeah, damn, like now I can like smell better for some reason. So if there is a physical, one of your five traditional senses, you know, hearing, sight, touch, taste, smell, if any one of those are extra strong, This might be an indicator as to what clair you are. Let me see. I remember reading in a sci-fi book called Mind of My Mind. That sounds like something I have to read. Ah, yes, the gift of clear touch. Um, that's a lot. There's a particular psychic medium that I'm thinking about that she's real, real good at that. I forget her last name, or her first name's Amy. Sorry, Amy. But she's very good at psychometry or clear touch, getting information from touching object. It reminds me like old down by the shore psychics kind of, oh, let me have something personal of the individual, right? To hold it and touch it. That is how they're receiving that information through clear touch. Or they're jipping you. That's why they're afraid of us. All right, guys, I'm gonna roll tonight. I'm having a little fun. Okay, so yes, signs that you're using a clair, look towards your more heightened senses. Look towards your more heightened, more finely attuned senses. That can be an indicator of a corresponding clair. Okay, if you have a heightened sense of smell, then you're probably clairalient in some type of way. If you have a heightened sense of hearing, then you're probably clairaudient. You could probably hear messages. You're quiet in meditation and you hear a loud sound or something like an ocean wave or something, like you're able to hear things, that's clairaudience. Okay. If your sight is super acute, that's going to lean into clairvoyance, being able to see clear visions of spirit or images beyond the physical plane or have very vivid dreams. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. Takara, my sense of smell used to be really strong and now not so much, but I think it's time for me to learn a lesson. I believe as well as we progress and move through our spiritual development, tapping into our intuitive gifts, the way that we perceive energy, figuring out which one of our clairs is the strongest, and we start working on that stuff, things shift. Things shift. Um, yeah, I used to be very strongly clairvoyant and only clairvoyant. Now you can add clairsentient, clairtangency, and clairaudience to the mix. Also clairalience, because sometimes I smell stuff. That's through working. So stuff is going to move and shift, and you might even that might correlate. That kind of, I'm not as good at that. I mean, it could correlate with a whole bunch of things, but it might also correlate with the fact that you're moving into a more strongly to receive, to perceive psychic information through a different sense. You know what, Takara? Like a little personal story that I don't want to. I feel like selfish saying this. I miss my nearsightedness. I got LASIK in January, and like I'm so used to being able to see things like really close and like really well. I can't do that anymore. And people are like, "Yeah, that's normal, Alexis. You're not supposed to see that shit that small. Like, what are you doing?" And I'm like, that's really weird, but maybe it's the eyes thing. Maybe the glasses. Oh wait, how many do they obscure your visions of reality, therefore unable to connect with spirit? I don't know. You tell me. Car alarm's going crazy in the background. All right, guys. So that's essentially the breakdown of the clairs. There's not much else to it. They're just like a heightened version of your traditional five senses, and some little variations in between. But the way that energy is energy, energy is everywhere, and it's just the way that we perceive energy. And if we're able to perceive it more strongly in one sense than another, we might listen to that for a while. That may be a way to connect with spirit more easily and get more intuitive information more clearly, more accurate. Okay. As opposed to just being like, well, what's that smell? And just keep it moving. Like, what were you doing? Where were you? Be aware of these senses. It's very divine feminine. Like, sit and observe every sense. Just checking my notes to make sure I covered all things. Yeah, okay. So the clairsentient, like if you're also like getting feelings, that's very much so connected to empath or empathy, the clairsentience. Because I again, it's like you're feeling the feels. You walk into a room and you're like, oh, I feel that person's emotion. That's clairsentience. Okay. And we've talked about claircognizance. I recommend keeping a journal too, like to track these experiences, especially if you're in meditation or at your altar doing prayer work or something like that, or in a ritual, and one of your senses is triggered. One of your five traditional senses is like, oh shit, what was that? Or what was that sound? Or what was that smell, that taste, etc. What was that whole ghost in the corner? We should write these things down and just notate them, and just to kind of track our intuitive hits and our psychic experiences, because as we continue to do that and develop them, like I said, they will continue to grow, um, and shift. And so you can also practice, like if you wanted to develop one over the other, you can practice that. There are exercises to increase that sense of perception for that clair. um, but clairs are not the whole story. Clairs are not the whole story. Clairs are not it. Clairs are an explanation of like the reason why, like how, like a boosted version of our smell is what is allowing us to receive that psychic information. But there's a higher category of psychic types that these clairs actually fit into. And that is something that I will be talking about in an upcoming webinar that I'm hosting on September 25th called Discover Your Psychic Type. We're going to get into those four hierarching types, psychic types, how they perceive energy, right? Same way, right? The clairs fit within them and they're kind of scattered throughout. So that's why I say the clairs are not necessarily the most important thing. For me, it's most important to understand what is your primary psychic type, one of the type fours. We usually have two types that are primary, but that information allows us to like fully trust what's happening, the perception of energy that we're going through, like what is happening, all these vibrations. It allows us to trust it because we know the way that we in particular perceive it. So that way, when it comes in through those channels, that radio station, we know we're on point. We know, oh no, I'm not wrong. I'm this particular psychic type. And that's how I receive information. Okay. But anyways, yes. Um, that webinar is going to be September 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Discover your psychic type. You can sign up. I believe I put the link in the description below, so you can go ahead and click on that if you're not already signed up. And a few other things. There was a few good episodes that we recently did that kind of also touch on like psychic and intuition, and even like I'm thinking about the thing that I did with Bronx Witch not too recently, not too far ago. What? I don't know what I just said, but you know what I mean. In the past, I heard about the witch wound, and I feel like that is super important because sometimes we're afraid to even get into this type of stuff because witch wound. There's a. What do you mean afraid? We don't make decisions from fear. Like there's no fear-based decision making over here in this divine feminine realm. So I don't even know. And if you do find yourself being afraid to take those steps, like there's a hesitation, you very well may be suffering from the witch wound. So I encourage you guys to check that chat, that live stream out that I did with her a few weeks back. But it's on both of our pages, so easy to find. Easy to find because we got to break down those ancestral blocks. Especially if you're trying to spiritually develop and you act, oh no, I do want to more clearly and accurately communicate with spirit and my spirit guides in particular. And for some reason, I don't know what the fuck. Yeah, there's some work to do, right? It might be witch wound first. Discovering psychic type noise is so loud because you have never grounded, centered, or cleansed. Okay. And that I think that was my last episode. So you can just hop on in the last one and check that out because those things are important too. So before we even discover your psychic type, you should go do those things. Does that make sense? Does that sound bossy? Oh, guys, I love you. Thanks for being with me. I appreciate your time. Any questions on the clairs, drop them down below. If you're seeing this on a replay, drop them down below. But yeah, use this day. We still have hours in it. Why was I told you I was late because of Black Friday. Black Friday, not because of Black Friday things. Ill because of Friday the 13th things. So use this day for its transformational and transmutational power of divine insight. Um, Tap into your clairs tonight. Journal. Set some powerful manifestations that have to do with flow, with abundance, with money, okay, because that's all connected with divine feminine energy. And use this bossy but solid. I think that should be on my tombstone, bro. That's it. You did it. Thank you, Nisi. um yeah, no problem, Takara. Yeah, watch those. They're pretty good. I love the one with the witch wound. Like, we really went in on that one. That one was fun. But also important information, especially if you feel hesitation. Like, I'm talking to those who are like, yeah, but Alexis, but like, what happens if like a ghost comes out and haunts me and stalks my kid? Mm-mm, mm-mm. Witch wound, ground center cleanse. You're fine. We'll be fine. We'll get through this. Bitch, you tell the ghost what to do. Okay, so yes, just another shout out for my Discover Your Psychic Type webinar on September 25th. The link is down below, so you can register for that right now. There are, besides the explanation of the psychic types, there are going to be 4 different meditations for each psychic type, so you can increase that. So I would recommend that for, if you know, whichever one's your primary, to kind of like work on that for like a good week, like strengthening that, and then use the other ones to develop the other psychic types because it's fun. I don't know. It's fun for me. But then there's also going to be a few other like downloadable exercises and journal prompts and stuff like that for each psychic type. Again, to help you develop your primary psychic type and just your intuition in general. So I feel like that's important because when we align to our gifts, when we know who we are, when we know thyself, we just manifest that much more powerfully, that much more easily, and it's game on, baby. It's Friday the 13th. Okay, thank you guys so much for joining me. Love ya. There's no more questions. I don't think so. Okay, there's nothing left. Peace, and I will see you next. When is my next? The next one is actually after the full moon, I think. I think that's the only one in the year. Well, I don't know. Don't quote me on that right now because I don't have my calendar in front of me, but I will see you next month. And I don't have a topic. So if you have an idea for a topic or you want to get into something next, drop that down below too. And I'll just make that my next topic. Thank you. Love ya. Have a good night. Happy Friday the 13th.